Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for this special edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. This is one of the things we do, having conversations with veterans in the industry, trying to get them to share from their heart so that we can glean from their wisdom, from their experience, and also from their expertise. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very privileged to bring yet again, of course, this is not his first time on this platform, has graced us with his blessing, with his knowledge a couple of times in the past, both virtually and many of our physical events. Today, we'll be having Victor Fumbi Adebayo talk to us on the topic he has scripted as the untold stories of greats and pain of getting to the top. Untold stories of greats and pain getting to the top. Most likely, I'll probably ask him to tell me why that topic. But let me start by reading his profile. And please pay attention because even from his profile, I'm sure you will get one or two things. Ladies and gentlemen, Victor Adebayo is the founder and CEO of Diversity Talent Management Limited. He is a seasoned human resource and business leader. His experience spans several industries, including oil and gas, fast-moving consumer goods, finance, maritime, logistics, consulting, automobile, and manufacturing conglomerates. He has held titles such as Chief Operations Officers, Human Resource Directors, among others. He is man of control and influence cuts across the entire African continent and the Middle East. He has led departments such as strategy and business intelligence, human resources administration, security, safety, health and environment, sales operations, manufacturing operations, and distribution operations. He's an alumnus of organizations such as African Global Logistics, CIG Group, Africa, Airtel Networks Limited, DP World Africa, First FBN Quest Merchant Bank, General Electric Oil and Gas, Procter and Gamble, Zenith Bank, DTL Systems, and Education Consulting. He has led transformation projects in organizations such as Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, Health Plus Limited, and many more. Victor also chairs the boards of 4 institutions currently: Diversity Talent Management Limited, an HR and strategy consulting firm. He's also the chairman of Pristine Way School, a full-fledged nursery, primary, and college. He's the chairman of Mega Life Health Limited, a medical diagnostics laboratory service, pharmacy, and wellness center, and also Are Estates and Property Development Company Limited. He is a director on the board of Seamless HR, a HR technology firm, and Fly Network, an education consulting firm. He has attended several executive learning sessions, including at Harvard Law School, participating in the Leadership and Negotiation Program, and attended the London School of Economics and Political Science, graduating with an A+ distinction at the Strategic Decision-Making Program. He obtained his bachelor's and master's degree from Obafemi Awolowo University. He also Global HR Practice certification, namely the Global Practitioner Human Resource GPHR and the SHRM SCP. He's also a full member of the Charter Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria. Is a certified management consultant and a fellow Institute of Management Consultants. He's a conference speaker and an active participant in learning, leadership, and strategy sessions. Victor is also an international compere and an astute teacher and facilitator. He's married to Dr. Motoki Adebayo, a consultant radiologist, and together they have a son and 3 daughters. Victor also pastors a group of youth churches in his local assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm also like to add that I've personally had the privilege of knowing Victor for quite a while now, if I'm not mistaken. maybe 20 years or 19 or thereabouts. And is somebody that has integrity in and out. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the person we'll be having a conversation with today. Let me also say this. I like to celebrate um, one of our sisters on this call, Kumbi Adeoti. I need to thank you, Kumbi. You may not know. It was because you did your session. That's why Victor is here. He joined your session. He said, Olemi, I think I like what you and Kumbi are doing. So you see that greatness gives back to greatness. And Kumbi Adeoti reached out to me like 4 or 5 hours earlier today, said, Olemi, I don't want to miss Victor's session too. Please pull me in case events overtake it. But let's start by saying, Victor, why that topic? Why that topic? How did you come up with that topic of all topics?
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure being here to be able to share with everyone. I've actually been ruminating for some time. It's been over 2 months now. I'm in the shower and I'm reflecting about my life, reflecting about my career, and I just thought about it that oftentimes the stories we hear are stories of breakthrough, stories of doing well, but sometimes we cry behind the scenes. Sometimes we've had troubles. Sometimes, things didn't really go the way we planned. Sometimes we've been victims of circumstances, and it's important that we are able to tell it all to people so that when people are going through their down moments, they understand that it is a part of life. We are not saying that it must happen, because what we try to do is don't be the reason why people go through those down moments. But we're trying to let them know that, look, some of the people you are looking up to and you feel, look, life is all figured out for them, they also had their fair share of some of those very troublous moments. And I felt, come on, no holds barred. At this stage of our lives, we should be able to say it as it is, talk about some of the anchors that we had during those moments, other facets of life that helped us to be able to, weather the storm, and then hopefully provide some level of succor and hope to others to say, look, like they will say in my language, and pardon me, my late father is an elder who will not say two things without koku wimo, using an adage. What it simply means is that, the bereaved, will always express their pain. But no matter how much they express their pain, people will not bury them with the dead. So, and the most popular one is Yakubu manage. Manage, it will be like it will kill you, but it will not kill you. I think those were the thoughts that prompted me to say, let's talk about, the pains and, the grit, the fight we had to go through to get to where we are today. So that was why.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we all have opportunities to shape this conversation. Do me a favor, if you have any compelling questions for Victor, drop it in the chat box. I, as the moderator, and Victor, as the discussant, we will cherry pick. So in case we don't pick your question, don't be upset, but we'll try to pick questions that will unlock different insights that we think will add value overall to what we are doing here. But let me start with this question, Victor. How did you enter HR? Why HR?
Frankly speaking, I got into HR out of panic. My first degree was in zoology. And those days on OAU, you go through Tuesday Guardian, Thursday Guardian, and Wednesday Punch. I'm sure some people do not know what I mean by those by those newspapers. Those were the jobber man of those days. And I saw absolutely nothing about zoology, in it. And Diolu Akinyemi came to OAU and he shared his experience and talking about how HR, has opened doors for him. And as someone who is from, a science background like himself, he read engineering, I think computer engineering. I felt like if he could have breakthrough there, I think I can too. And PwC visited our campus too then, and there was a guy who led the team. I don't know if he was the leader of the team, but he was the main speaker at that event. And he spoke about the beautiful world of consulting and all that he has done. And one of the practice areas was also human resources. And that, solidified my resolve to say, you know what, I'm going for HR, and that's it. So I'm young, I've graduated with a good degree. And like this PwC guy has said, you can graduate with anything. Yoruba engineering is acceptable. Just pass our exam and you are in. So I set my eyes for HR, and everywhere I interviewed, I told them I wanted HR because I wanted to be like a Diolu. I've not told Diolu this story, but but that was what made me say, you know what, let's go do HR. And I got into human resources, fell in love with it. In fact, I enjoyed every bit of it. Procter and Gamble then opened my eyes, and that was where Diolutu started his HR career, and it was beautiful. And ever since then, it's been no looking back, no looking back.
No looking back. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Moving on. How have you evolved in this journey? What things did you do that literally helped you grow in your career?
I think it dates back to my Procter and Gamble years. If any of my colleagues from Procter and Gamble, if you ask any of them, those who knew me then, I was this chief volunteer for anything. Despite the fact that I worked in human resources, they are talking about, oh, we need volunteers to. Before they even say what it was, my hand was up. I'm volunteering to participate in whatever it was. And that gave me a bit of understanding of the functioning of various other departments. In fact, I became what we call SPOKE, single point of contact for information security in Procter and Gamble. I was trained by Stefan of blessed memory. He used to work for the South African Secret Police, and he taught me about many, many bad things. I don't want to go into all of those things. But he said, look, there's nothing like ethical hacking. Hacking is hacking. Your intention is what makes the difference. And, those things eventually became relevant and useful for me when I got into the full HR generalist space. Because as a business partner to most of the functions, because I had partnered with them on various projects, what they were doing in those places were no longer strange to me. So I could speak their language, I could relate with them, I could talk to them, and I could feel what they felt in those places. And by the time I joined the Chanrai group, which is now DP World, I will go on a sales call with my sales team members. I mean, they'll say HR director is visiting Kano, for instance. And when I get to Kano, I'm not going to sit down to wait for the business leader in Kano to brief me. I just pick any of the motorcycle reps or the bike reps and say, I'm working with you today. And then I sit down with him on his tricycle and we go on all the sales call. So I see him visiting, the pop stores, the mom stores, all the customers. And we are there, discussing with all of these people, understanding the issues. I had my flagyl in my pocket because once they offer us anything to eat, so as to be a nice guy, I will eat it. And if my tummy does anyhow, I pop my flagyl. It was one of the survival tricks on the field at that point in time. So I was really, really a field person, not just someone who sits in the ivory tower dictating policies and procedures. And it helped me to be able to gain credibility with my leaders, especially my group CEO at the time, Mr. Mr. Sunil Gupti, pardon me. Whenever there was any issue in the business, he would just tell them, go call me my Mr. Fix-It. And they will call me and he will say, Victor, this is the issue. This is what we want to achieve. I know you and the law and all the labor things and all of that. Help us find a way to achieve our objectives without breaking the law. So I think that earned me all the credibility. And I would say the same thing to, anybody trying to succeed in human resources. You can never succeed without understanding the business that you support. It's important for you to immerse yourself in that business. Don't separate yourself. Don't feel like the police, but be very, very integrated with the business. So you are not just working from a theoretical point of view, but you are working from a very realistic point of view, whereby your solutions are things that are practical and things that are doable for the business, not just the textbook knowledge in getting things done. Those were some of the things that really helped me to settle within HR and also to make my mark in that space. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Everyone talk of their success stories. You know, many either gloss over or don't even mention anything around their pain, their challenges, their heartbreaks, their regrets. If you don't mind, would you like to share some with us?
Ah, these are the touchy parts of it. I think the first one was my investment banking days. I goofed at a point in time. And what was the issue? We had a lady, a very young lady. She was part of the graduate trainee from Access Bank. And as part of the process, we needed to conduct background checks. So we had written to Access Bank and they wrote back to us to say, hey, this lady left us without completing the mandatory 2 year. And as a result, she's going to be owing us 2 million naira. And I'm talking about 2014 there, about 2 million naira was a lot of money. And for me, it didn't make sense because this person was barely there for 6 months. And I felt, why would you be, punishing this person with so much that you are now hindering this person from moving forward? So I goofed by saying, you know what, I granted a unilateral waiver on that background check without escalating. And unfortunately for me, audit query picked it up. Of course, I responded to the audit query and I told them all that I did. My boss queried me for doing that. I faced a DC panel for doing that. I was really upset that why is all of this? But then it got me to understand the power of contracts and legality and helped me to be able to understand that, look, you don't work with subjective emotions. Contracts are contracts, laws are laws. It doesn't matter how you feel about it, you've got to respect those things. And ever since then, it redefined my relationship with her. And of course, I looked out. I got other roles. I got a role then with Barclays. Um, Actually, I got three roles. So one, Funke Amobi was going to have me as head of HR for the retail bank. I got another role with Barclays Bank to also help them with setting up HR. And then there was another one with ISIN BPO to be their vice president, human resources for the African business. But I settled for the Barclays Bank one, did all the background checks, did everything. And after I had resigned and then moving on to join them, they had their regulatory infraction. And maybe tomorrow they will ask me to resume. So they told me to hold off. I had resigned, I was transiting, and I was out of job. It was a very, very painful period of my life. I guess I would not have taken the hasty decision if not because of the redefined relationship with my boss. I would have probably just, waited through. But then I learned some very hard lessons at that point in time that look, in the place of work, contracts are contracts, laws are laws. For as long as nothing is breaking the bigger law, which is the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, irrespective of how you feel about things, you must do things right. And that's why when I speak at CIPM, I always talk to people. HR is not activism. We are not activists on behalf of the people. We are custodians of the law and we must uphold it, by all standards and do the right thing. If you permit me to share a second experience, which was a
Please go
painful
ahead.
one.
Yeah.
Um, it was um, it was something I found out during my Chanrai days. So there were a couple of regulatory infractions that I noticed when I newly joined the business. And I was trying to correct all of those things. I mean, I was a hothead, for a better part of my career until I started coming down and, there are gray years here and there. I I took them up and I went to the group CEO and to the chairman of the company and I told them about all of these things. And the chairman told me something. He said, Victor, I love you and I love the fact that you are bringing all of these things to our attention. But of course, complying will mean we'll pay out a lot of money. I am happy for us to pay, but please let's face it so that it doesn't tell so hard on our operating expense. But we will do the right thing because that's one of the reasons why we brought you on board. We wanted somebody who would help us to be able to do the right thing. And so with that, I started putting, things in place and I had their backing. Then an employee died. When I checked up with the finance team and with the rest of the HR team, there was no group life insurance in place. As HR practitioners, you know what that means. I spoke to the finance person at the time, and in fact, he led to a bitter fight. He said our standard process is we pay the family 2 months' salary and that's it. And I said, not under my watch. If we didn't put the insurance in place, we have to do everything. It led to a very big fight between us. And ever since then, the man had me in mind. Now, where I'm going is this. He set me up with women. He set me up with alcohol. He set me up with union. He set me up with money. And if I begin to tell you some of the very intricate cases in all of these things, I think the place of faith was what really helped me through. My Christian conviction I hold dear to me. And by God's grace, I have not compromised that for money or for levels or for anything. And even in the course of my career later on at another organization, I don't want to mention names, I was lied on, literally lied on by somebody else that I demanded a bribe from him. I mean, I was too shocked. I was too shocked to say I demanded a bribe from who? From you. And it was so much of a shock to me. We were at CIPM conference, and I was wondering what's going on here. I mean, I was just thinking, and for me, it was so foolish that I would demand a bribe from a vendor who has his wife working with us in the same organization and who has been in the company for 19 years, who is a fellow director like myself. I mean, think about it. If you want to be stupid to ask for a bribe, will it be somebody with all of those, intricacies? He's also an insider, technically. I was so shocked. It was really, really painful to me. I wrote a one-line resignation letter and I walked out of the organization. I mean, for me, it wasn't quitting the organization. It was the shock and the trauma of how desperate people will go just to bring you down for whatever purpose. I eventually got to understand what the purposes were, the sinister moves and all of that. I smiled, but I wasn't out for 1 week before I got another placement. And I basically moved on with my life and I've never looked back ever since then. But, there were things that we had to face in the course of our career. I mean, too many funny things. I mean, jazz, even in the place of work, and some of those things. But here we are today. We are still standing strong. And by God's grace, we know there will still be more in the future, but then it is what it is. We will have to continue to thrive in the world. And I have also learned a lesson in all of this. Sometimes don't quit, fight it through, fight it out, and make a statement for yourself. And let them, do whatever they wanted to do. Because there was another organization where I did. And we went to court. We were in court for 5 years. I eventually won the case. They paid me 5 times what they would have paid as at the time, and I moved on with my life. In fact, that money came in at a time when I needed it. And I told myself something. Next time, when somebody does something like this to me, I will wait for 5 years before I sue, so that by the time the case will be determined, it will be 10 years and I can claim 10 years interest on my money. But really, those periods, it was really, really painful. It was really, really tough. There's something I don't joke with is my integrity. There's something I will never joke with is my name. I would rather come to you and apologize and say I am sorry if I have done that thing. I mean, my wife, my family, in church, wherever, even for my colleagues and my staff. If I'm wrong, I'll tell you I'm sorry. I don't think there's anything about being too big to apologize. But in the place of work, a whole lot of, power play, dynamics comes into play. In fact, somebody was telling me recently that one of the CEOs of one of the places where I had worked was telling someone else that, look, when I start my company, I'm definitely going to bring Victor on board as a consultant. And the guy asked him why. He said, that guy, he operates with integrity. And I know he will look out for my business. The guy said, but why don't you want us to bring him here? He said, no, Victor won't eat. He won't allow you eat.
Oh
So
God.
you can imagine he wants to protect his own institution, but where he is right now, he wants to eat there. And I mean, it's a whole lot of things. I'm sorry to say it. Organization values are personal. Not everybody shares it, even at leadership. So all the integrity, transparency, and all of those that we say, the higher you go, the more mature you become. But at the end of the day, it's a very personal thing that I want to be true, I want to be faithful. And there's a slogan I use in the office: heaven is far, and I want to get there. And like I would say, if your values are not anchored on faith, I think you have the tendency to falter. In one of the companies, my first budget was 4 billion. I could move money, nobody will know. The man, there were no metrics for checkmating what I was doing. In fact, we caught a very, very junior officer who was pocketing 825,000 monthly. You could imagine that loose system, but I accounted for everything, built accountability matrix, which was part of how we discovered many of them. The man took me like his son, but of course, life moved on, and we are where we are today, trusting God and also doing what we can do. So those are some of the, painful moments. My wife was my crying partner, doing the beautiful job of rubbing my head and telling me everything was going to be fine. And we thank God today. We are where
Thank you
we
so
are.
much. Thank you so much. I think that will take me to my next question. So, how has your career journey affected your faith, your family, your health, and your personal relationships?
Ah, I think there's a lot of dynamics in that space. I was a very fellowship guy, involved in several things. So on campus, I sang in the choir. I was a missionary on campus. NYSC, I was a location pastor. I was general coordinator of my fellowship. The state, I was the youth leader in the church, in the community. I had about 4 different roles. I traveled around the entire state, sometimes on motorbike, trying to visit people, came back from NYC and tried to continue all of those things. But as we started to rise in the course of our career, um, timing became an issue. I struggled a lot with it because it became like, God, am I not backsliding? Am I not, prioritizing other things? But with time, I understood that your mission field is basically changing. While you may have done the best as at the time when you were at whatever level in which you were, as you move up high there, the people up there also need to be able to understand who you are, and you can carry your faith, whether you preach directly or you let your life influence other people where you are. And so don't think rising in your career and you are not able to do some of the things you used to do before, means you are falling away, but it simply means wherever you find yourself, live out that faith. And that helped me to be able to, demystify some of those things. Much as some people used me to preach that I've lost my first love and commitment, but I didn't let it deter me, you know, in what I was doing. I simply focused on the fact that, look, things have changed and we need to also change with it. And I consoled myself. And pardon me, I'm not preaching, I'm just sharing things as it affects my faith. The apostle says it is not meet for us to abandon the preaching and to be serving tables. But once upon a time, they were serving tables, and that was why they fed 5,000. They fed, how many other thousand too. That was what they were doing at that point in time. But as they also rose to become apostles, they had to do other things at other spheres, and that helped me. I think family was a lot of strain. I mean, they put a lot of strain on me. My wife also being a medical doctor and being a consultant. In fact, for once, maybe I should let out the cat from the bag. We thought we were going to get a divorce because it was difficult. She's away, I'm away. My children were literally living with my parents. And as a man of faith too, though sometimes I used to complain to God, why am I always the one who has to bend? I packed my things from my house and I moved into the hospital, one 4x6 room with plenty mosquito. In fact, I renovated that complete room, that one room. I did a whole lot of renovation there to make it habitable, just to be able to, save my marriage and, save my home. At a point in time in my career, I was given an official apartment, a 3-bedroom, but I could not live there because I wanted to be home. I wanted to be near my wife, just to ensure that we can keep the home front together. And at that point in time, there were beautiful species all around you. But I just thought within myself to say, look, if you want to be committed, if you want to be true, you have to be true. And I had a story that somebody shared, and he said, look, whatever your decision is in life has a cost. There is a cost attached to faithfulness, and there's a cost attached to unfaithfulness. The cost attached to unfaithfulness may be, jail sentence and all of that. The cost attached to faithfulness may be pain, maybe you suffering long, maybe several things. Just make up your mind which cost you are willing to pay. And I chose to say, you know what, let me pay these costs. And I have no regrets. It's changed. A lot has become very, very beautiful. And I'm not saying this to water down the impact or the effect. I would say we found love in each other again. We sat down, we talked, and at a point in time, she was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know I made you feel this way. And well, I mean, the output of one of those things is, I have a 6-month-old son today. And we had that one for the road, and luckily he happened to be my only son. Hallelujah, somebody.
Oh God.
so my, my children did bear the brunt of that. But I'm also happy that they spent those times with the family. They spent those times with my parents. My dad passed on 2 years ago right now. They cried so much because they lived with him. So they could feel, that impact and all of that. So he had his toll. And I would say nobody should feel guilty about it. Relationship front, I have very few friends. Dr. Luyemi, you know me. I have very, very few friends. I have a lot of how do they call it?
Acquaintances.
What? Yeah,
Acquaintances.
acquaintances. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's the English word. A lot of acquaintances, but very few friends. And why? Because there are three criteria with which I choose friends. Number one, I love people who are very cerebral. I'm sapiosexual. I mean, you need to see my wife and I when we are arguing on intellectual fronts. I mean, she reads, I read, and we want to argue things out. So I love people who are very intellectual. The second thing for me is I love people of value. If and when I mean values, your value system needs to be aligned with mine. There are certain things I just wouldn't do. I've seen a whole lot of people do that, but I would rather be in your company when I find out that, look, you are not going to be indulging me in doing some of the things that I don't want to do as an individual. And my thought criteria is that you are forward thinking. I don't like people who are satisfied with whatever level they are in. I want people who are always thinking about the next level, thinking about the next big thing, thinking about, accomplishing a whole lot. So that narrowed down my group of friends. I want us to talk about investments. I mean, you know me even on the OAU MBA group before I stormed out. I'm always telling them, look, guys, let's talk about how we can help each other. Let's talk about how we can build together. Let's be each other's client. I mean, those are things that, I really want to get involved with. But when it is all pessimistic, when it is all, I am for Peter Obi, I am for Jagaban, and all of those things, it just puts me off. So those things, I think the price of friendship was also there. And for me, little to wonder my children call me wardrobe. I seldom go out except I'm going to church or I'm going to work. And you will hardly find me in parties. They all call me wardrobe in the house. That's wardrobe. Daddy that is wardrobe. He doesn't go out. So if it's not work, you won't see me outside. If it's not church, you won't see me outside. But I'm trying now. At least you are getting me out. You invited us to Lamango. I went there.
With your
I was at
family.
the last end of year party. Yes, with my family.
Yes, yes. Excluding the
End
latest
of year
one.
party now. So I'm beginning to go out. I'm beginning to and continue to help me in that area so that the wardrobe side of me will reduce as we get going. But yes, it was a price we all had to pay in the course of our career. But the dynamics also changes. We focus on one at a particular point in time, but we pay the cost for whatever we are looking forward to, and that thing had better been worth it. And I think for my career, it was worth it. And I have zero regrets about that. Zero regrets.
Would you like to say anything about work, career, and health?
For my health, I think I've shared the story. Quite a number of people know this. I work myself to the bones, and I will share this. In my Procter and Gamble days, when we were doing Northern Diversity, I combed many of the universities in the north. So I fly to Abuja. From Abuja, we drive the entire north. I mean, this was before Boko Haram and all of those things. I will conduct massive recruitment for 700, 800 people, score them overnight, start my interviews the next morning at 7 a.m. There was a day I almost passed out in the process. Blood was gushing out from my nose. They had to call, the paramedic in the hotel to attend to me. It was really messy. And they told me it was just stress, that I should go and sleep, gave me some painkillers, and I should sleep face up. Lo and behold, what did I do? I was lying down face up and I was still scoring the shit. It was crazy. When my father was diagnosed with cancer in 2013, that was the very first time I began to take healthcare seriously. And it was a rude shock to me because my father was hardly ever sick. In fact, I can't remember any time my father was sick. I can't remember. He was a strong, agile, overrunning kind of a person. And so I started doing my checkups too. We started with care for him before he eventually passed in 2023 now. Yeah, was it 2023 or 2024? Before he eventually passed, 2024. It was a 11-year battle. And I decided to start checking my health. So annually, between August and November, I would go and do my annual check. And that year, I was on two projects. I was doing the Health Plus project, I was doing organization design for TDS, technology distributions. There was a third project we were on. We were planning something, organization design for Benin Medical Center. And in the process of doing all of those, I suffered constipation. My wife asked me to go do my checkup. It was August. I said, come on now, do it in November. And she was like, go and do it. And I did it. To cut the long story short, I was diagnosed with cancer. And that in my left kidney. It was the CT scan that picked it. Even the ultrasound did not pick it at that time. I think the cancer was barely a week old. Was barely a week old. And my wife just called me. She saw the result. I mean, that's her field. She was the one who did the CT scan on me. She saw it, but she didn't tell me anything that night. We went home, we slept, normal. She didn't tell me anything. And then it was the following morning, she called her senior, their HOD, to break the news to him. And he said, she can't break the news to me because you should not treat your family member. Let others handle it. I was called in and they broke the news to me. I mean, it was a rude shock, a rude shock. You can imagine me sweating under AC. 8 days later, I had a surgery where they took out the entire left kidney. I mean, for many years now, I've lived with only one kidney. If I don't tell people, nobody will know. And that's why you always see me with my water bottle. I will go about with my water bottle. I drink a lot of water just to be able to support the only surviving one. And I've been praying to God to do a miracle of giving me another one. Not that I don't trust him that he can keep me with this one, but it's just my desire. I'm a student of Smith Wigglesworth. He said through his life, no knife will come on his body. Well, knife has come on my own body, but I want to die with all of my organs intact. That's just been my prayer on that side. But then he made me take my health a lot more seriously. I started, exercising. I built my new house. I planted a gym there. So the full gym services, ensuring that I do all the fitness and all of that. I'm not someone who posts a lot of pictures, but I try to take care of my health. Much as I know, yes, I'm getting back into my work mood where I could go on for so long, but my wife is always checkmating me and giving me that look that, hey, Mr. Man, there, Mirawi. If you don't understand that, ask Google or Chat GPT. I don't know how to translate that, but it simply means take it easy. And we have to slow down and we keep pushing on from there. So it took its toll on my health, but if there's something I could tell my younger self, never sacrifice your health for anything. You wouldn't feel the pains now. It is in later years, later life, that you will be feeling all of those things. And I think it's very, very, very important for us to always do our checkup. Don't just eat your shawarma. Don't just dirty December. Use it as a time to rejuvenate. Pay good money to check your health and your well-being, and then subsequently rest, and then you can refire again. I think those are some of the things we joke with. We've been sitting for so long now. I mean, I try to stand up at every point in time to ensure we move about and stay fit and stay strong. Those are some things that, I mean, if I had a chance, I would do better. And right from now, I think I've tried to change my style in that space. But I'm still a workaholic.
Thank you so much, Victor. It's sometimes not very easy to be vulnerable. And this is one of the reasons why, yeah, we teach content, hardcore technical HR content, but there are other sides of life that also supports the entirety of what we do. And it's also okay to let people know that we're also human. We have our own frailties, and we're also trusting God. You know, I see a question here from Fumi. She has two questions. I don't know which one to take. I'm not sure I will take two, but let me take the first one I see here. She says, could you please share what the most rewarding part and the most embarrassing part of being an HR leader is? That's from me, from the chat.
Ah, I think it's a mixed blessing. By God's grace, So there's a young man, I don't want to mention name and organization, but I know he wouldn't mind me mentioning it. As at the time when I joined the organization then, he was to be fired. In fact, they were already preparing his termination letter. The then head of the department called him useless. And when I came into the business, I picked up on him. And what drew me to him was his Excel skills. He was very good with Excel. And I'm a very strategy driven person, but I'm not most excellent with Excel and all the data analysis, much as I'm very comfortable with data. But of course, I know people who have better skills than myself. And so when I'm crafting a house strategy, he's there with me and I tell him, do this simulation for me. And he's able to do it. And that was how I started working with him. Today, he's the group head of HR for the business. And he told me this story himself to say, boss, there's something I've never told you before, but I will never forget you in my life. That he was called a misfit, he was called whatever kind of name, and look at him today. I recall, in fact, I can begin to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 CEOs in Nigeria today that I gave them their first job. And they used to call me Edmo. I would sit down with them, do career counseling, career advisory for them. And today they are CEOs of organizations. And I don't mean small businesses. I mean multi-million dollar businesses, not just multi-million naira businesses. And they are doing very well. And beyond that, several other people that when I sit back, I remember people, there's a lady that the father's staff brought her to my house. I was on vacation. I said, this lady read biochemistry. She just needs to start off in life. And the person who brought him to me was somebody that I appreciate a lot. And I told him, much as I'm on vacation, you know what, let's go to the office. Let this girl come and write our test. She came in, she wrote the test, she did very well. She's a sales director in a big multinational today. And when I see all of these people, sometimes when I call them and people see me with them, the way they hug me, it gives me fulfillment that, look, you've been able to invest in the lives of people. There are people that right from their university days, because I did a lot of campus recruitment, so I was very, very close to university lecturers, professors, and all of that. Press buttons to be able to get them admission, follow up with them till graduating. My NYSC students, they still call me Copper Victor till today. I don't know when I will finish my NYSC. And, guiding them on their career journey. See, in fact, one of them has invited me to an entrepreneurship conference in June in Ondo State. She was in JSS2 when I taught them. And she would still call me, Copper Victor, I need you to come. And looking at her filled me with so much sense of pride and, and joy and fulfillment out there. And, it's very, very beautiful when I think of such things. And some embarrassing ones too is also exactly the same situation. I don't want to say some things that I will break my back for people, and I don't need to know you. I don't need to have any relationship with you. For as long as it's within my power to be able to act, I will do it. But I've also seen people that I went extremely out of my way to be of help for them, to, help set them up. And later on in life, they have opportunities to be able to maybe make things happen. Maybe I'm even pitching to your business. Oh, who should I talk to? We want to be able to do this for your organization. And they act like they don't know you. For me, I love dearly. I mean, I love with the whole of my heart. If I call you my friend and everything I say to you, I mean it. I'm a lover boy. My wife knows it. And that's why I try as much as possible not to get involved with any other person because I love you with all of my heart or you are not in my heart. And, you see them, they now have power, they now have influence. Every day I pray for them because there's one thing God has told me, letting no root of bitterness spring up in your heart, whereby many be defiled. I mean, if there's anything that can hinder answers to our prayers, is doing this. And I always remember, God did much more for us. Jesus died for us. And my faith always comes up in what I do. But sometimes we mess up too. I mean, I can imagine how he feels too, that with the level of grace I've invested in this guy, he's still doing this. So you just have to pardon and push on. But it can be embarrassing. And apart from those ones, whether to me or I'm trying to get them to also help other people and they don't want to pass it on, it hurts me and it gets to my heart. The second other thing is the story I shared earlier on of the other organization where I was accused of wanting to collect bribe. I mean, it was painful to me. It was really, really painful, as in, it was like a dagger to my heart. And I asked myself, in how many years of career, and somebody is coming up with this nonsense, completely baseless, and all of that. It really, really, really did hurt me. But I mean, we are where we are today by God's grace. We've moved on with life. I will say this, but I was doing my net worth yesterday, doing some rough numbers and valuations. I'm like, I can't say I can't say I am part of the masses anymore. So
Uh,
we thank God for where we are today, and God didn't disappoint us. So that's
Absolutely.
it. That's it.
Absolutely. I will still ask you a question about investments, especially for HR people. But let me quickly ask these stories. How do you remain scandal free? We have had stories about people, some even in hush tones. How do you navigate this murky side of life? Success and women, authority and women, positioning and women. How have you been able to cope? Some people think
Hey,
it's
Uncle
only
Yemi,
brotherly.
where
Some
you
people
they
think
carry me? They go help me, help
today
me,
now
help me.
no holds bar session. I want to help one brother in the house today.
I'm
Sister Kumbi,
proud to
I
say
didn't
it.
ask you this kind of question. You get why?
um, by God's grace, as at today, by God's grace, I can stand before God and say it. My wife is being the first and only person. My first woman experience was my wedding night. I'm not ashamed to say it. I was so crude. I asked her, "How do they start this thing?" My wife laughed. Oh my God. She uses it to tease me till today. But of course, I mean, we are five-star general in those departments today. Uh, but of course, there's a song that comes to my heart. It says, um, good things are made of these. Who am I to disagree? I travel the world. Uh, some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be used by you, etc., etc. I'm mixing up the lyrics right now. There are people who are sincerely attracted to your success story and they want to be a part of it. And they come in that sincerity. But one thing I understand is this. We call it the chemistry of the night when we were in OEU. It flows. You as a man have got to understand, okay, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? And I know some of them set out in sincerity. It wasn't their objective, but like I said, when I am close to you, I go all out. I want to know what's going on in your family, what's going on in your life. I mean, okay, so if I backtrack, during my undergraduate, there was a lady, she was struggling with her education. She was studying a completely different course. I mean, I was doing zoology. This person was in, if you know OAU very well, environmental what do they call that faculty? All these estate management, quantity surveying, those kind of departments. Because of how passionate I was, EDM, thank you very much. Because of how passionate I was about this person's career, I will take her textbooks and her notebooks, go and read, and come back and have private tutorials for her, though in the open. And I was doing it sincerely, just out of a very open heart. I didn't know love was already getting into the equation. And now we were undergraduates at that point in time. That's how intent I can be for people. And sincerely, I mean, one of my mentees, I just saved her husband's life. And why? I mean, they came visiting. I got to meet her during the training, and I took over, helping her with career advice. I got her a job. She told me some issues that was going on in her family. I counseled her on how to manage it. And, the husband was really impressed, wanted to know me. We got to meet each other. I introduced them to, you need to do your health checkup, got my wife also involved. And that was what saved the husband's life, because in those checkups, they discovered something that could have taken the man's life. It wasn't a cancer, but it was something else. And my wife stopped talking to me about it because she tells me her patient's history is her patient's history. What the issue is, I don't know. But she told me, oh, she would say your daughter's husband is in the hospital or is on admission. And I would just say my prayers. I didn't call her because she didn't call me. I didn't call her, to discuss it, because of course, I need to maintain my balance or my boundaries. But that's to tell you how personal I get. And sometimes it gets me in trouble where people then begin to desire more. I won't pretend that I don't know. I know. But I pull back once I see it's getting to that stage. And that's why I live a very triangle life. If I'm not at work, I'm in the house or I'm in the church. It's one of the reasons why I don't socialize so much, because I think it's a bit of a slippery place where if you are not careful, you will fall. And there are those who are really out there to say, you know what, I want to get this person for all of these intents and purposes. Some I know, some I don't know, but I think my faith guides me. Do I feel tempted too? Do I have desires? Of course, I do have desires. Of course, I do feel tempted. Of course, I see some people and I mutter words in my heart of heart. Like they will say, yeah, it's still a bit, all those funny things we see. And you're like, oh my gosh, where do they make these girls these days? They are just so beautiful and everything in shape and in, and you do blood of Jesus and Astaghfirullah combined at the same time. But you know what? I will go home. I will go home. And my wife is my friend. We talk about some of these things. We laugh about it. And I try as much as possible to make it a family, conversations when I meet people. So by the time we all become family friends, it kinds of diffuse whatever tension there may be, because I mean, come on, there should be a code of honor among thieves. I mean, your husband is my friend, or you are already a family friend. Come on. No, you don't do such a thing. But over it all, I wouldn't lie. There are many times in the bathroom, I'm on the toilet seat, I'm just praying. In fact, it happened to me in my GE days before. I was so attracted to a lady, and it was really bad in the office that day. I just got up and I went to the toilet and I sat down on the toilet seat. I wasn't doing anything then. I was just praying. God, will I come and embarrass myself here? Come on, help me. This feeling is getting too intense. Help me here. And I left there after about 15 minutes. People thought I had a running tummy. No, I had a running spirit. So I had to go and pray about it. And I came out, I became better. I would say faith has really helped me in that space. And for money too, for me, money is just a tool. You deploy it, you use it for whatever you want to use it for. I want to be rich. I want to be a billionaire. I mean, in dollars, in naira, yes, cross that stage. But I want to be in naira. I mean, in dollars. But I don't have to steal to do it. And I sit down with my children and I tell them all of these things to say, hey, these are avenues whereby I could have done something unethical to make money. But every time your father's name comes up or you Google anything about your father, I don't want you to ever read about a scandal. And if I'm this meticulous about my name, my image, and all of that, you can't do less. You always have to raise the bar. And I think those are the things that have helped me. Abstinence, staying away from things that can get me easily compromised, or staying away from environments that can get me compromised, or staying away from people, because I know some acquaintances too who are bados, like somebody is saying here. I try as much as possible to keep my distance. I had a friend who told me, Victor, that I've been with women, they're over 200. I was like, Astagfirullah, only you. So, you keep your distance from, such things, because it's not an area I want to go into. It's not a life I want to live. I want to be able to look Jesus in the face. I say, thank you, I was faithful. Yeah,
Okay,
there's pressure. Pressure is still there. I'm still a
I don't
fully
want to
viral
stretch
man.
this matter, but do you remember the story of the lady that wanted to appreciate you personally? Don't
You
mind
know
me.
they
Victor is
forget
my personal
things.
friend, so don't mind me. Victor was
and,
very
and
good
and
and she
yes, this
wanted to
this is some
appreciate
of the
you
things.
personally.
And this is one of the things that helps me. And thank you for bringing this up. I have an accountability group where I am vulnerable to. If anything is happening in my space and I really need people to put me in check, I tell them so that they can also help me to stay sane. It's a good group that I think anybody should also form with some of their group of friends. So this lady, pretty lady, everything in shape, she came to me sometime and she told me, oh, they were having lunch and the girls, I mean, these Gen Z girls, pardon me, I mean, no offenses intended, but they were just, discussing that, oh, among the top of gas, who is this person's babe? So they will mention somebody in leadership and say, this is his babe now. And they kept mentioning and they were giggling amongst themselves. And then my name came up and they were like, that one that is always looking straight like this. That one that his eyes is always up. And the lady then was like, how come? And then she just came over to my office after some time. We got talking. Her boss had left, so she had to report to me directly. And she said, I just like you. You are a very good, sensible. And I told her, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And then she got to the door and turned around and looked at me and said, sir, I want to F you. I don't want to use the word F in full. I mean, but you know what I mean. She used the full word. And I'm like, excuse me. She said, I'm really, really good about it. And I'm not, I'm really, really good at it. And I'm not shy about my sexuality. But I like you and I don't mind. And she left. Hey, blood of Jerusalem. Now, we got another manager, a temporary manager for her. And bear in mind, this lady is good on her job. She's very, very good on her job. The manager brought a promotion recommendation to my desk for her. And I completely supported it because the period I had to work directly with her, I mean, she was burning the lights out and she was doing well. So I did give approval for that. And, we made a general salary increase for her. I mean, I was the final signatory. I signed it off and they did the thing to her. And then the manager then told her, go and thank so and so person, mentioned my job title to say, he supported your growth and all of that. And then she came with the letter and she was like, I just want to say thank you, sir. And I'm like, you're welcome. You deserve it. Back to my HR self, talking about, and this should fire you up, do more for the company. And then, how you ladies turn your eyes and look at people and then say, sir, let me thank you the way I want to. And I'm like, hey, who do I go and report sexual harassment to like this in the office? It was really, really tough. But I I survived it. um I survived it. And by God's grace, I was still of help to her, some time ago, not too long ago. But then I also understood there are certain things I wouldn't do. And that was why, I can speak to one or two people that are in my circle that way. There is a friend, Usman is in Bayelsa State. Dr. Luyemi, we've had some tete-a-tete together, sometimes. And people have slid into my DM at some point in time. I won't call you out. I won't abuse you. I won't insult you. I'll just manage it. And because for me, it's a function of two things. Some people want to rise genuinely. Some people are not interested in rising. They just want to, you know, use their body to get whatever they want to get. And then some people are from the spiritual kingdom. So, whichever one, unfortunately, I'm unavailable. They know they see me. I just told them I'm sorry. I'm not interested, and I don't think I want to do something like that. Um, I'm married, and I think I'm satisfied with what I have, and I think that's just where I want to go. Um, I'm not polygamous in nature. If it was the world of polygamy, you do proper polygamy, not side chicken and all of those things. But it's just not me. It's not just who I am. And by God's grace, till date, my hands are clean. I've never, and I'm trusting God for the future too. Trusting God. It's not by my power. So please, nobody should come and say, "Let me go and try him too and see if he will for Joe for long bear." I don't get muscle, please. I don't get muscle.
Okay, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot to learn, and we learn every day. Some of these things, some people may not understand today, but tomorrow, as you ascend in your career journey, as you have more authority, as you attain, you have more capacity, more influence, more resources, I'm sure you'll come back and watch this session so that
Absolutely.
you toughen up. So we don't have much time anymore. Probably have to come and do a part two because there are a lot of technical questions I would like us to have. So maybe we'll do another session that will be pure HR technical questions so that we don't belabor. But let me ask you this last question today, also slightly on the soft side. Can you tell us a little about investment as an HR? You know, how do you, from the little you earn, how are you able to invest and some classes of investment and stuff like that?
Okay, for me, there was an encounter I had. I was in Ghana I was visiting one of our offices in Ghana, and the CEO of the Ghana business and we were discussing, and he told me something. He said, "Victor, you are in a very good position." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Look at you. I mean, by the time you are leaving this company, you can just set up an HR company and you'll be rendering services to us. Chairman likes you so much, and I'm sure he will give you business." He said, "But look at me, I'm a sales guy. What consulting will I do for them? I can't set up a sales company of my own. I don't have the money." And that statement just struck me. When I left his office, I was really, really thinking about it and contemplating about it. My father retired in 2000, and I wouldn't say life was, the best of it at the time when he retired. It was a bit challenging too. And I always thought to myself that, look, I will never go through this painful period. And remember, when I was leaving the investment bank, I was going to Barclays before I had that career gap of about 6 months where I tried to do some consulting. Um, Life was tough. People who I knew didn't even bother picking my calls. A whole lot of things happened during that period. I got to redefine my friends, my circle of influence, people you really thought. But that was when I made up my mind, this will never happen to me again. And I started commercializing my knowledge. So the first thing is reached out to a number of training institutions. Time will fail me to go back to when I first encountered them. The first institution then was Workforce Management Center, and then moved on to several others. So I started facilitating training programs for them. When I take my vacation, 2 days, 1 day, 3 days, weekend, I quickly go and do all of those side gigs. I earn my money. I do training, tons of training for various organizations and across all sectors. So that was where it started. And those monies started coming in. Remember, I told you the story of a man who used to work for another person and brought the daughter of that person to me in the house to say, please help my boss's daughter to get a job that I said she's a sales director in a multinational today. He then told me that, look, at this stage of your life, you need a roof over your head. And that was how he took me to the mainland. I mean, I stay in Isolo Axis. And he told me, look, this area is developing. Buy land here. And how much was the plot of land at the time? The plot of land was about 1.2 million. And for the survey, for the, Omonile and all of that, everything came to 2.5 million. And he told me, you know what, you can pay in bits. So I gave them 800,000 naira then, which was because on campus I had invested in a tutorial center and my money was trapped in that center. But somehow the guy came back with, out of 1.5 million, he gave me 800,000 naira. So as I collected the 800,000 naira, I used it to deposit for the land. And then I started. And I was reading Richest Man in Babylon. And one of the advices there was for you to own a piece of earth. And I looked in my area. Land there are still relatively affordable. And, most of them, because they need the money, they will tell you, you can pay 2 times, you can pay 3 times. And that was how I started investing in landed properties. And today, I mean, several of them that we have acquired. And that was what led me to say, let's establish a proper real estate business where we now do a lot of focus. And one of the key things we are focused on is building student hostels across universities in Southwest Nigeria. And many of these universities are giving you between 25 to 30-year lease for you to build, own, lease it out to students. And at the end of the 25 to 30 years, it becomes that of the university. I mean, I will have made my money back. So all those opportunities are available. I mean, if you need more information, I can share some of those details with you and then help. So I started doing training. I started doing some consulting gigs. And at the time when I was leaving the Chanrai Group, now called DP World, it was my chairman who now told me to say, hey, Victor, I need you to set up an HR company, just like the MD in Ghana told me, and then register yourself and start doing services for us. And that was how I started the outsourcing business. And then we gradually expanded from just doing outsourcing to full recruitment, training services, HR advisory, and a whole lot of other things. And then we started crafting some innovative businesses ourselves. One is what we call the HR business process outsourcing. There are a couple of companies today, if you enter there, you are talking to their HR department. They are actually my employees who are working there as full-time HR, managers in those places. They report to me and, I liaise with the leadership of the organization. So more or less, they're hiring me through my staff so that my experience and my knowledge, I can bring it to bear. And those people too learn, and they also use what they have also acquired in HR to be able to help to grow. The other thing is, because I worked in the investment bank, I learned a lot in the asset management business. So the laziest way to start your investment there is for you to buy the money market products. They are capital preserving. You will never lose money on money market. And the interest is also good. I mean, 2 years ago, the interest was as high as 27, 28%. Now it's come down significantly to about 17 to 21%, depending on which organization you are putting your money in with. And I would always recommend to you, I still believe in tithing. Once you pay your tithe, pay yourself. The bulk of what is left, please invest first before you know what you are going to spend for the month. It helps you to be able to enforce discipline. And I can confidently tell you, I am stuck in the mindset of the salary I was earning in 2013. That is what I plan my everyday living on. So as my salary was increasing in 2014 till date, I have never increased my lifestyle. Every extra that has come above what I was earning in 2013 has been going into several of all these investments. And watching the investments grow, watching them, become what they become is what is happening. And right now, we are moving on to also investing in my wife's field, which is, what led us to the diagnostics company and now a full-fledged hospital. And then we want to start running. If I mention it to you, some of you will laugh. circumcision services in the UK and in Spain and other parts of Europe, because you'll be surprised that circumcision is a very expensive business in Europe because people don't do circumcision anymore. So I just laugh at some of our doctors who go to the UK and then they are struggling with the medical whatever there. I mean, I don't need any of those things. Just do the whatever certification for you to be able to render circumcision services. I mean, the cheapest you get in the UK is £750. Sit down there with the barrage of Nigerians that are there, Arabs that are there, Africans that are there, Asians that are there, and these ones still practice circumcision as in full-heartedly. I mean, December, go check many of the hospitals. You will see how many children that their parents come back with that are 3-year-old, 3-year-old, going through painful circumcision. I mean, you can render those services. Forget their, medical services where they walk you to the bone and then Nigerian doctors are collapsing on duty. So there is the course. Like I tell my wife, there is medicine, but there is the business of medicine. You need to sit down and think about the business of the profession that you are in today. And those are some of the things that has helped me. And right now, stock market is doing phenomenally well. I mean, it's something I think anyone should get into. At least for the next, 3-4 years, the stock market is still going to be a boom. Download your Bamboo app or any of those other apps to be able to buy, watch your stock grow, but don't just watch it grow alone, do some active trading, sell off, buy other cheaper stocks, and then continue to watch it grow. Dangote is going to list very soon. I mean, start keeping some money aside, and that girl that you are trying to convince that is always wanting an expensive date, I bet put her aside before she eats away your first mansion. Put the money into some of these stock markets and watch it grow. Maybe next 2, 3, 4 years. I know stocks crash over time, but blue chip companies for now are really doing well. And some Nigerian, Okomu Oil, check the trajectory of how they have grown over time. You can do some of these things. And then investing in boring businesses. Just find tricycle, give it to people who manage it, not people who ride it. People who manage it. Those ones then give it to the riders. So it is the people who manage it you have business with. They remit your money to you every week, no fail. And you make some money from there. But we can have a separate conversation in that space because there's so much to be able to explore there. And for us as HR professionals, I was speaking with Faith. She's in the US right now, and she was talking about the challenges even in the US, where you would think is sinner climb. She said their problems are even more than the Nigerian market, that managers who don't want to respect policies, who don't want to. She said she thought, oh, I'm moving to the US, a mature market. Hell no, pardon my Spanish. It's such a horrible, horrible, horrible market from a people management point of view. So we are always, on the verge. The people you are fighting for, the day the organization fires you, they move on. They will not even look back and remember that you were there for them. They will just move on with their lives. So you need to consciously have that backup plan for yourself, such that when you know you can't compromise, you have other things that can continue to fund your survival. Else, you will have no choice but to compromise. I've had people come to me and cry and say, oh, some of these senior HR people, if you see what they are doing in their organization, I laugh and I tell them, Shay, when they sack them, are you going to pay their children's school fees? I say, look, at a point in time, all humans will do it. It's survival mode. So much as I also do not support, some of the decisions or the actions, but they are actually showing survival mode. They've got to survive too. And that's why they will play the fool just to be able to continue to hang on. I know the OCIPM creed, but look, life is real before you. When life is real, I've been involved in letting go of executive people. I had somebody, he's a chief in one big company today. I mean, he was crying, grown-ass man, saying my 2 kids are struggling in Ukraine. I mean, how am I going to pay their next school fees? I had to tell him that, look, I will negotiate a good package for you, and I will take it upon myself to help you get another job. And I fulfilled my promise. And eventually, when he secured something else, he called me himself to say, look, I will honor you because you were there for me. And I'm going here. The announcement will go into the media very soon. I don't want you to hear in the media, hear it directly from me first. And when there were opportunities for my company to do business with the company he went to, I mean, he called me up and said, Victor, I know you can do this. Never, there was nothing improper in the whole relationship and the conversation. So we did good business and we're moving on. So I think that's just it on the investment side, and we need to keep it real. We are not activists, but at the same time, we are custodian of policies. We like it or not, emotions or not, we do the right thing. But a good backup plan also gives you some level of comfort when you are pushed to the wall and it cuts, your value system. At which point in time you can say, you know what, at this juncture, I think I need to take a bow, and then you walk away. That's that's basically my story.
Thank you so much,
Thank you very
Victor.
much.
Some people, when they will come and watch the YouTube session, they will go to the beginning and go to the end. So let's use the end. Let's use an HR question to end it. So that every other thing is inside the sandwich. So you have held roles from HR director to chief operating officer, COO. How did you successfully transition from HR into broader business leadership? That's the final question.
For me, like I said, I volunteer a lot, and that gave me a lot of exposure to so many departments. And when I sat down at a point in time and I started asking myself this question, I am already HR director. Where else am I going to? What are they going to promote me into? Luckily for me, the journey started with, DP World, when I did organization design and I created 5 new departments: sales operations, manufacturing operations, QHSSE, corporate communications, and legal department. I created those departments in the business. My group CEO said, since you created them, you understand them, run it. And that was how I became acting chief operations officer within the business. So my scope was no longer just HR, but it gave me the opportunity to immerse myself a lot more in the business. And the organization where I went to become substantive group COO, when she had interviewed me for an HR director job, but when she started asking me questions about what I had done, she found out that I was deeply involved in several other things. And she could not hire me at that point in time because we couldn't agree on numbers. And that was when she said, no. I think I would rather have you as my chief operations officer. And then you can hire whoever you want as the HR director to report to you. But I need you here. Till tomorrow, she's still asking me to come back. But, that gave me that insight. And for me, I've also been neck deep in HR strategy. And in HR strategy is, joined in the hip with organization strategy. So I found myself running from HR strategy into sales, into marketing. I did my MBA in marketing and all of those things. And that was when we started the strategy side of our business too. And we started, engaging with various organizations. I mean, there's a financial institution. Every year we run their strategy session, a pharmacy company, automobile, and several others that are beginning to sign up within that space. And we are able to help them, lead through all of these things. So for you to transition, first, to grow your HR career, be very close to the business. And at strategic point in time, you need to know when to say, you know what, I am done with HR, and you can speak with leadership to say, I want to take the deep dive to explore sales, I want to explore marketing, or I want to explore supply chain. Those 3 departments help you ultimately to position yourself for that, chief operations officer role, which then guarantees or creates a pathway for you to becoming a substantive CEO within the business. Because whether we like it or not, yes, there will be newer challenges. The organization is doing something new, and so it will always require your HR experiences and competencies. But it's the peak, either HR director or chief HR officer. But for most others, whether it is marketing, sales, finance, supply chain, they can become CEO. Why not HR too? We can also become CEO. But the validation is that we understand the business. and we are not just providing support for the business. With that assurance given in the organization, you get that opportunity to also become, a substantive COO, and then hopefully a CEO from there. Or you even move into all those marketing, sales, and other areas, grow there within 2 to 3 years, and then position yourself for a COO role. So that's how I was able to transition and grow in my career. And like I tell people, yes, I know I run my organizations today. Um, I was a recruiter reached out to me for a CEO role recently. I wasn't too inclined to that industry and I declined. But if it's an FMCG company, most definitely, it's something I will still give a shot. So whether it's COO or a CEO, because I want to do some things also within that multinational space. And my team need not be afraid. Insurance cover for you all, so there's no problem.
Thank you so much, Victor. This has been exciting. Most definitely, I'll reach out to you to look at another date where we'll have another one-on-one like this. Perhaps I already have two mapped out. One will be strictly technical HR. The other one will be investment for HR. We are not going to let you people go. Just like I'm still coming back for my sister, Kumbi Adeoti. I did your case, man. I'll never forget. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take if you have any quick question or comment for Victor. You want to say something? If you raise your hands, I'll recognize you. While I wait, if there will be anybody, let me just appreciate a few people randomly. I'm just doing a random check. Yeah, so if I don't mention your name, don't be upset. My brother Ali Ibrahim, I see you. Thank you so much. I see you, Ali Ibrahim. Thank you. I see Rita Babalala. I see you, my sister. Thank you so much for always checking by. I see Madam Princess Omoba. I don't know whether you're in UK or you're in Lagos, but I see you, ma. Good to see you. I see my sister too. I see Chinwe Obiano. Good to have you. I know you've had a session today. I like people who like knowledge, back to back, everywhere. Thank you so much. Let's quickly take comments quickly from Victoria. Victoria, you have the floor.
All right, thank you so much, Doc. Good evening, sir. Thank you both for an insightful section. Well, my quick question is, this interview I attended, and I was asked, as an HR, if you have two senior executive employees having issues amongst themselves, you as an HR, how do you handle such an issue? Thank you, sir.
Issues vary, and there's no one style or approach to dealing with it. And you also need to understand exactly what the issues are. I've been invited to, participate in some investigation that we eventually found out that the two of them were dating each other, but the girl found out that the boss or the person is now dating another girl in the organization. And then they start having issues. The guy is a married man, oh. So if you don't understand the underlying issues, you will just be dealing with things on the surface and you will not be able to resolve them. So I would say stay neutral. Explore the process within your organization. Everything does not have to come to HR directly. The first point of call should be their own one-up manager. When it comes to HR, it becomes an institutional issue, at which point in time, we are setting up a panel to be able to examine what are the issues here. So let's not take on the role of, Mother Teresa here, trying to motherly manage everybody. It has to be an institutional response when issues are occurring as such. Otherwise, let them explore, the normal, channel within the business whereby their most senior manager will have to deal with those situations first. And if it is coming to HR, it's becoming a panel situation where several other business leaders will be involved, and then we can trash out whatever the issues or the concerns may be at that point in time. So I would say don't get emotional, just follow the company process and you will be safe, doing that. That's what I would advise you to do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
I
Victoria.
see a question here I cannot ignore based on the source. Kobe Adeoti wants to know, Victor Adebayo, if you will advise your younger self, what will it be? If you will advise your younger self, what would you be?
Number one, break your conservative shell and break it early enough. The world of business and the world of work today, a lot relies on the power of networking. And I would say it's intentional networking. I'm too much on the sidelines. I don't get into the flow of action, into the flow of things. I love to watch and observe. And sometimes maybe because of my personal fears that, oh, I hope this thing doesn't become something that I will have to be dealing with or managing and all of that. I think I need to overcome all those fears, network a lot more, be aggressive a lot more within that space. It would have helped me even go further in the course of life. That's one thing I would have advised myself to. And then number two, learn to say no. I did too many years early in my life. I did too many years wanting to, pour myself into people. But I found out that, look, there are people who are just out there to drain you. You should be intentional and very, very observant before you pour yourself into others. It should be people who are willing to be poured into, not just people who want to be living off you. Those things drain you. It doesn't allow you to focus. You get emotionally manipulated and, absorbed. It's something that I would tell my younger self to probably have worked on a lot more. I think those are two things I can share right now. But permit me, before I wrap it up, somebody said, Oludotun Taiwo said, Victoria's question was also referring to executives. So if these are senior people that are having the issues between themselves and is beginning to tell on you, is one of the reasons why HR should report to the CEO of the organization. And in such a situation, you want to escalate to your CEO because it's above your pay grade. They will use you to play kalo between themselves. And these people hold camps. You will not be there when your appraisal will be talked about. And so if they see you intervene, especially when you do not have the, what do I call it, the muzzle power to be able to say, okay, they are directors like me. Because, in many organizations, HR is usually lower in cadre compared to some of the other executives. So in such a situation, just table everything you're finding before your CEO and tell him, as their line manager, he's supposed to be the one to intervene. Don't get involved. Don't put your head into the middle of it at all. And everything you are doing with those people, document. Document as much as possible, because you can't solve all the problems and you don't want to create enemies for yourself when you did not set out to doing that. When their team members are complaining, tell them to fill the anonymous reporting or ombudsman reporting, and escalate all of it to the CEO as much as possible, while you will also do your own bit. But they need to support you so that if those anonymous reporting is getting to the CEO and you also file your own reporting, at least something can be done about it quickly. But don't just take it all upon yourself to say, blessed are the peacemakers. In the career world sometimes, for they shall be exited before their time. And it might impact you negatively. So that's just that dimension. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Victor. Again, let me appreciate you for honoring this invitation. Well, let me put it slightly better, for initiating this conversation. I've known Victor, like I said, for those who joined, for at least 20 years. I did my MBA at Obafemi Awolowo University, and Victor spent 2 years together. And I can say I've gained more from Victor Adebayo than from the certificate. Note, I have not said I have not gained from the certificate, but I'm saying just Victor, and Victor is just one person in my class. Victor alone, my going to OAU for MBA is worth it. How much more should I count the other number of people? What I'm saying is that when you have opportunities, build relationship, meaningful relationship. This is 20 years later. They say 20 boys cannot play for 20 years. It's 20 poor boys. 20 rich boys can play together for 20 years.
Of
Hopefully,
course.
it's not going to be Epstein files. Thank you so much. I celebrate everybody. If you don't get it, forget about it. Thank you so much, ladies and
Forget
gentlemen. I see
about
more
it,
questions.
man.
We'll come again very soon. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody. Get some rest. You can unmute and say thank you. Just unmute to say thank you if you can. Just
Thank
unmute and
you,
say thank you.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
very much,
It was
guys.
an
Thanks a
insightful.
lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Very, very
you.
much.
Aquare.
Thanks a lot.
We're blessed
Thanks
to
a
have
lot.
you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, doctor. Thanks for the session. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming, my brother. I appreciate you,
All
sir.
right, sir. Okay, sir. Good night.
Thank you,
Good night,
sir.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir, for the insightful session.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Come again, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Hey, man.